time. So my name is Diana Economy, and I am the Senior Admissions Advisor here, and I do a variety of things, but one of the things that I love the most is working closely with our students and allowing them some space to be able to share their stories. And that's our hope today as well. We want to make sure you understand the unique perspectives and opportunities that we think are available for international students. But rather than hearing from us, as maybe you have through some of our admissions focused events, this one's going to be more about the students and their experience. And so we are really grateful to have a wonderful group of students here today. So what will happen is we're going to start with some pre-planned questions. This has come from some of the questions you have submitted in advance. What you can do is you're able to put questions in the Q&A. Feel free to do so throughout. And what we'll do is after a few pre-planned questions, we're going to get to your questions to make sure that we get to the answers and the topics that you find most valuable. So with that in mind, I'm going to have our students introduce themselves. Gerald, I'll start with you.
Sure. Hello, everyone. I'm Gerald Velasquez, originally from Peru, where I studied system engineering and developed my entire career in the telecommunication industry in a company similar to Verizon or AT&T, basically working on customer experience and digital transformation projects. After 8 years, I decided to pursue my MBA, coming to the US, and decided to join to SOM. That's a great experience. More recently, I did my internship at Amazon as a senior technical product manager in Seattle. So was a great experience. And nowadays, I'm leading the data analytics club. So happy to share all this experience. And by the way, it's nice to meet you all, guys.
Thanks, Gerald. Candice?
Hi, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. My name is Candice Shen. I'm originally from Shanghai, China. I was born and raised here, but I did come to US for my undergrads, where I studied media and communications. After I graduated from my undergrads, I started working in the US for around 4 years in the technology marketing space. And then the past summer, I actually intern in Seattle with Gerald, where I work at Microsoft as a product marketing manager intern, which was a very meaningful experience for me. At SOM, I'm pretty involved on campus as the co-president of Greater China Club. I'm also involved as the chair of international students on the student government, which is very relevant for today's panel. So, really looking forward to talking to you guys today and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Eben?
Hi, everyone. It's a pleasure to meet with all of you. My name is Eben. I'm originally from Accra, Ghana. Before business school, I worked in commercial banking in Access Bank. I worked across treasury, doing liquidity management and currency trading as well. I decided to come to business school because I wanted to pivot into investment banking, with the structure at Yale SOM helped greatly. This past summer, I interned at Barclays Investment Bank with the Financial Institutions Group, and I'm happy to go back to continue my career in banking. But here at the moment, I'm currently involved with the Africa Business and Society Club, and also I'm a director with the Finance Club. And I'm happy to talk about anything with regards to recruiting. I'd like to share with you one thing I'm really looking forward to this year. I'm very excited to go back home this December to reunite with my family after a year in the US. Nice to meet you all.
Oh, I'm excited for you to be able to do that as well. I know, just in a few short weeks, you'll be done with the term. Sanjana?
Yes, very excited about it.
Thanks, Diana. Hi, everyone. I'm Sanjana, a second-year MBA student. I was born and raised in Dubai, but then moved to India for my undergrad, and then spent around 6 years working there in the non-for-profit space. Came to SOM to pivot, and this summer I worked at BCG in Boston. Had a lovely experience during the summer, and so I'm super excited to be going back. I think for my second year at Yale, I am really enjoying my time traveling. I did Mexico during the fall break, and I'm going to do Costa Rica this week. And so for me, it's all about downtime. I'm very happy to talk to people about broader Yale, so classes you can take outside of SOM, as well as some really fun stuff and very cool things that the undergrads are up to that you can engage with. So super excited to be spending some time with you guys today.
Thanks, Sanjana. Yeah, one of the huge benefits of being at Yale, I think, is being able to take advantage of the broad Yale University. You can take an unlimited number of electives outside of Yale SOM. And of course, you get to interact with both great undergrad as well as graduate students from across campus throughout your time that's here. Sanjana, I'm going to start with you, please. And I want to know a little bit about how SOM has made you feel welcomed. And would you choose it again?
Yeah, the second one is super easy to answer. So yes, I would hands down choose it again. And I think it's because of two reasons around your question, Diana. So I think the first thing is as an international student, it's really hard to move to a country and be away from family and have to navigate a new space for the first time. And I think that SOM's business and society tag helps welcome the right people to Yale. So I feel like the community is one of the nicest groups of people I've ever met. I always thought that B school would be very cutthroat and that I would find a lot of people that would want to, push you off and like climb the ladder, but that really wasn't the case at Yale. And I think that Yale has done a really good job of making sure that the cohort becomes really close through a wide variety of activities. So I think one is community has been really important in making me feel welcome. I've had classmates who've helped me navigate a phone plan or help me understand which supermarket I need to go to. Or even like as an Indian, if I want to find Indian ingredients for food, I've had like the South Asia Club come and step in and say, here's what you can do. So I think that people have been really important. And I think more than that, I feel like I'm an introvert. And I always felt like at B school, I would have to push myself to be an extrovert, which I have. But I think the unique part about Yale is that I felt very comfortable being my authentic self and being the introvert that I am. I think my friends have been very understanding about me wanting to have that alone time. I think the school also creates so many opportunities for you to do other things apart from, I think, what the MBA experience might be known for. And so I think that's kind of how Yale has made me feel welcome. I would like to shout out one experience, which I always say is my favorite SOM experience that really speaks to the community part of it, which is Friendsgiving. So, Friendsgiving is a tradition that we have every year that we do a week or two before Thanksgiving, where Evans Hall kind of has AASL puts up, long tables of excellent food for us where you're really able to bring your friends together and enjoy a Thanksgiving meal. And I think that really encapsulates why I feel welcome at SOM.
Great. Does anybody else want to share any of their experiences coming to SOM or feeling welcomed here? No, but I'm sure you feel welcome. So we'll keep going. Oh, no, go ahead. Eben, go ahead.
Yeah, I can just add to it. I think everything Sanjana said is just, I really resonate with all of that as well. I feel like what you find incredibly inspiring about the community is that even though people are incredibly smart, they're also extremely humble. They're always willing to help, willing to support. I remember when I was recruiting, I had mates who were, because there's what we have like the learning teams here, and you have people support you like through like your first year. And because I was recruiting for banking, I had like my classmates showing up for me so many times to just make sure that I was up to speed with what was happening. I feel like truly, if I have to go back to decide to come to business school again, I honestly wouldn't make any other choice than to come back to Yale SOM. It's an incredibly beautiful place. Yeah.
Great. Thanks, Evan. Candice, I know you mentioned that you are the student government rep for our international students, as well as the leader of our Greater China Club. So I know you're very familiar with the resources that are in place to support international students. And I'm just curious, what was your experience adjusting to the SOM experience as an international student, and what resources are in place to support international students?
Yeah, of course. Firstly, for me, there wasn't like that much of an experience adjusting to the international experience here because I was already in the US before even the program starts, and I had the opportunity of come on campus for like campus visit. When I was applying, I also went to a welcome weekend before school starts, which was such a unique experience because we got to go to some students' home for a small group dinner. We really talked to them like in a very intimate setting, which I really appreciated. And also hosted small group dinner to give back to the community when I joined, which is a very unique experience. And when it comes to resources to support international students, I think There are three parts. The first is the OISS, Office of International Students and Scholars, which is basically a Yale-wide resource to support the entire international student community, mostly with a lot of the visa immigration stuff. You know, how do you get your visa before you come to the program? How do you get like the paperwork done? Where should you apply for your visa in the embassy, stuff like those. So they give you instructions regarding all of those and have a lot of resources for Q&As as well to help you with the entire process. I think career-wise, there are like some resources to help international students too. For example, the CDO, Career Development Office, they provide a lot of resources when it comes to recruiting, either for recruiting in the US or recruiting for international locations. They teach you about like, say you want to find a job in the US, what are some essential processes, how do you enhance your resume and cover letter, and really how do you like how is the difference between like applying for the job in the US versus in your home country. So I think those are very handy. Another part of professional development is like a lot of our professional clubs on campus. For us, a lot of us recruit for like more structured paths, like consulting, investment banking, right? So those clubs really provide very hands-on resources like weekly curriculum to help you provide, prepare for those kind of recruiting passes. I think that's a big part too. And the third one is the individual affinity and cultural clubs. Like I'm part of a Greater China club. I think a lot of us have experience with our individual clubs, right? Because I think the clubs, the student groups can be very different when it comes to your approach adapting to the US environment, right? So for us, like the Greater China Club, we have those like WeChat communities where we put the second years and first years in the group, and they can really ask us, any questions they would like to in like Mandarin Chinese, and we always get back to them and then provide a supporting community for our Greater China Club students. And I think all the other clubs do the same. So in short, I know I talk a lot, but like SOM do have a lot of different resources to support international students. So you guys can, all feel prepared and welcome your community.
Great framework, Candice. Thank you. And the other resource I'm going to share with you all is our student ambassadors. So we have student ambassadors across a variety of different backgrounds and disciplines that I think is another good resource for you. And if you're here today and you say, hey, I really want to talk to somebody who has this point of view or this perspective or from this part of the world, starting with our student ambassadors is a good idea. And then I think asking to say, hey, do you have any classmates who I might talk to that, have these backgrounds? Gerald, I saw you come off of mute. Yeah, would love to hear more about your experience with the resources here.
Yeah, I would add two more resources. The first is the alumni network. It's very, very powerful, responsive. You can ask for different industries, from consulting to small startups. You can access a strong network of alumni from SOM, and not only for SOM, but also outside the school. And the second one can I mention is the Professional Communication Center. When, as international students, we need to sharp our skills. For example, bringing these ideas or preparing our stories for the recruitment process. And the Professional Communication Center, it's made of 4 coaches to sharpen your skills and communicating better in a working setting in the US.
Great. Well, speaking of working in the US, I know that there's some unique nuances to those of you that are going to be looking for opportunities here and trying to figure out how to navigate them and any of the uniqueness that might come with being an international student. And Eben, I know that you recruited for banking, but whether banking or otherwise, I think that there's some commonalities between the resources that are available to students as they navigate. So what recruiting resources have you found to be most helpful? And what was your recruiting experience like as an international student?
Yeah, thank you. I'm very grateful, number one, to the structure that exists at SOM in the first place. I think that that's the biggest resource we have, is how structured the whole recruiting process is. And that is because of how the CDO also plays a very strong role in ensuring that even internationals don't feel like they're international doing recruiting. So one thing I found really helpful was, number one, you have corporate presentations with all these banks coming to campus to network with students, which as an international, it will be very hard to just navigate your way through that just alone. But you have all of these bands coming to campus all the time to host corporate presentations and then ask you to reach out to them. It's something I found really helpful in first year. Also, not just making us ready for networking alone, but also getting us ready technically. And so along the line, you have institutions like the Wall Street Prep, which for everybody that wants to go into banking, it's a very important tool to have. You have the Wall Street Prep coming to campus to take you through like technical training, PowerPoint, Excel, shortcuts and tips, which is something that became very handy for me when I was working during my internship. And also with the finance club, I'm a director now, and what I found most helpful was the mentorship. Like you have a second year student who is willing to volunteer, who is willing to help you through recruiting by acting as a mentor, helping you through interview tips, preparation, and all of that. And even just go back to what Sanjana said, just the fact that people are always willing to help. The finance club at Yale SOM is quite small. And so you know everybody by their name. And so because of that, what happens is that like you get a chance to technically prep with your colleagues, and then it doesn't feel like the more you actually do this technical preparation, the more you get better at interviews. So I feel like the resources at SOM was really helpful to actually help in navigating recruiting. So.
Okay. Anybody else want to share their recruiting journey and some of the resources they found helpful? How about yeah, so I was going to say consulting. Thank
Yeah.
you.
I think that just like Eben said, I feel like the consulting recruiting is also super structured. So I think one is Consulting Club was incredibly helpful. Everything from timelines you could expect to how do you even prepare for a coffee chat, which can be really foreign for international students, at least in India. Coffee chats and networking isn't a big concept. So I feel like that was incredibly helpful. A lot of students just spend time on weekends during their second year helping first years out do the reps. And so I thought that was really helpful. I think number two is SOM also hires external consultants to help you practice your interview skills. And I found them to be incredibly helpful, especially for behavioral interviews, which are more about what is your previous experience? When was the time that you felt challenged? Very similar to the interviews that you will do when you sign up, when you apply for Yale. I found that to be also incredibly helpful. And then finally, I will say for consulting, the companies themselves are incredibly helpful. They will spend the time to help you practice for interviews. They will ask any questions you have. A lot of international students find it difficult to choose an office to apply for. And they're more than happy to spend time setting up coffee chats with you and with people from that office so you get a picture of what it would seem like to work at that office. And if you get further on in the process, you also have the opportunity to visit the city. So I feel like with consulting in particular, it's a pretty seamless process. And they're very friendly in terms of hiring international students. So as an international, I found really not big of a difference between recruiting here versus recruiting back in India.
Great. Yeah. And I think, Eben, you had mentioned earlier the alumni network and the strength of the network, or Gerald, one of the two of you. And I really think that this network comes forward too, not only as you're preparing for your internship, but during your internship to make sure that you get up to speed, right? There's all these resources that are in place with internships to make sure interns are successful. But if you were to layer on the Yale SOM network of alums that are at that, company or firm that you're joining for the summer, I think that's an added benefit to all students and something that I hear about regularly. Now, Gerald, I know that we've talked a little bit about career, and of course, you're also a student. You're managing, all of your course load. You are moving to a new country, and you are trying to navigate some new things for the first time. How do you navigate being an involved member on campus and keeping up with everything? What does that look like?
Oh yeah, it's a great question, very reflective. Because first I can list what is my involvement with in the SOM community. As I said, I lead in the data analytics club. Then I also helping to the tech club with some panels, some recruiting practices like coffee chats or interviews. And then this is not only about clubs. We also have social events at SOM. We also have, I'm also ambassador student, so you can reach out to me. So there are many activities that are involved in the community. And the key to balance with our academics, because this is another part of our experience and we need to fulfill, it's to prioritize. In my case, I list all these activities that I mentioned: the social, the clubs, the academics, um, external events. Maybe you want to go to New York also to enjoy some shows or concert or whatever, because it's only 2 hours from New Haven. So what I did, and I do it, and I still doing, is to list all these activities and try to prioritize, because time is limited, and sometimes I have to say no to some activities, but it's on my decision, on my own, to say what I want to do. What is my priority now? If it's maybe as a first year, get a spot for my internship, so I need to prioritize the professional clubs, the tech club, practice with my classmates, with my friends here, or it's maybe next week. It's this weekend is the game with Yale, so everyone is focused on that. So I need to prioritize my schedule to say, oh yeah, I need to spend my this last weekend working on all the assignments to get my free weekend and enjoy the game against Harvard, with Harvard, by the way. So that's my criteria to try to balance all these activities and reduce at the minimum the famous FOMO, the first of missing out.
Great. Yes, I think that's right. And that's common to what I hear from students talking about, is you need to have balance. And my advice to you with my admissions hat on is to really think about what you prioritize and what you're passionate about and what you're interested in, because there's going to be way more opportunities than you're ever going to be able to take advantage of. And I think the more that you know yourself, you know what you're trying to get out of the MBA, the more successful you're going to be, because you'll have a little bit more focus. It doesn't mean you shouldn't be exploring and trying new things. In fact, you very much should. And I think this is an environment that encourages you to try new things, and people are supportive of you taking on new opportunities. But you do have to be very mindful. So thank you for that, Gerald. I would like to end, students, before we get into the Q&A, with just having each of you share some of your favorite opportunities, experiences, something you've participated in, and maybe what you wish you would have known when you were in their shoes. Sanjana, we'll start with you.
Awesome. I will do a plug for Broader Yale. I think this is my opportunity to do that. I think maybe very quickly, 3 big things that I've loved. One is the flexibility to do classes outside of SOM. I think that's given me the opportunity to do an oil painting class this semester, which I've very much enjoyed. I've gotten back in touch with some of my old hobbies. I think the second one is something called Yale Farm. So the undergrads run a farm themselves during the fall. And every weekend you can kind of go and spend a few hours to volunteer there. And so you're harvesting, planting seeds, and also watching and helping them make pizza. They've got their own like wood fire oven, and they use ingredients from the farm to make that pizza. Best pizza hands down in New Haven, more than Sally's, Pepe's, or Frank's, if you've done your research on New Haven. And then I think finally I will put in a plug for Yale Secret Film Society. The Secret Film Society is something that's set up thanks to the very well-connected faculty of the art school. And essentially every 2 months, they set up a film screening of a movie that hasn't been previewed by the public yet. So it's not out in theaters officially yet. And you get the first look. And they've screened some really fantastic movies, some Oscar-worthy movies as well. And so you show up, you don't know what the movie is, and you kind of find out on the day, and you enjoy a look before anybody else. So I think those are some of the fun things that I think Yale has to offer. And Diana, what was your second question?
Just what do you wish you would have known now that you're here and you're there applying and thinking about the school? What do you wish you would have known?
Right. What do I wish I would have known? I don't know, honestly. No answer for that. Maybe I'll circle back on that one or put it in the chat, but yeah.
Excellent. I had no idea about the Secret Film Society. It's so secret. Okay, great. Well, thanks for sharing. Candice.
Cool. Since Sanjana talked about the courses outside of SOM, I will just quick plug for an experience a class inside of SOM just to complement that. So I think a pretty unique experience for me during my first year is participating in a YCCI. discovery project. It's Yale Center for Consumer Insights. The reason I recommend this is because sometimes you feel like you want more hands-on experience with your coursework, right? So for this kind of YCI project, you got to work with a brand to work on a research project. That's something that the company actually cares about, which I think is very unique. And they do bring in brands like companies from different sectors, from profit to non-profit sectors, to work with the students, and you got to meet with your team virtually and talk about their business strategy and what they care about stuff as well. For me, I mostly work in technology space, so I feel like my experience with the other sector is a bit lacking. So I work with PepsiCo on a consulting project on their sports drink category, which is a very interesting, unique experience for my first year. So I recommend this one. Also, I think I talked to a lot of prospective students. A lot of students don't even know this kind of experience coursework exists. So I do recommend this. And then another second question is like, what advice do you have for prospective students? I'm also an admissions ambassador. And then when I was asked this question, I always just answer like, I think just be confident and believe yourselves. Because I think like when I was applying, I always feel like, oh, I won't be able to get like any offer because I just didn't feel like I work at a well-known company or my experience is unique enough to be admitted to Yale, like such a prestigious school. But now like here, I feel like it's not true because everybody has their unique input into their community, and then really the diversity of our community makes this school environment very unique. So like really look into your life experience, your 20, 30 year of life experience, and see what are some things that make you unique and make you who you are today, and then bring that into the application. I think it will make you stand out no matter what. So that's my one line of advice.
Thanks for that, Candice. And I agree with you. I think a lot of times we get asked, how do I differentiate myself? And what does this look like? And really, we try our best to be as upfront as we can be about all of the aspects of the application and what we're looking for. So I think you'll find that in our application guide, which we can put in the chat. But you'll also find that when you open up the application itself. So when you start the application itself, you'll find that there's a lot of guidance as to say, here's what we're asking in this section, and here's why. We even give you, for example, a template to put together your resume. Now, your resume does not have to be on that template. This is just us saying, here's some guidance to help you bring your best self forward, if you wish, and here's what we're looking for throughout. So I appreciate that. Eben?
Yeah, so I think that I will share first my in-classroom experience, which I think has been very enriching, is the fact that the second year allows you to sort of fashion your MBA experience any way you want it. And so me especially, I have a deep love for banking and finance, and so I'm taking a lot of classes in like central banking and all of those stuff. I took a class recently called Emerging Market Central Banking, and I loved it so much because the professor was just so able to sort of connect how central banks in emerging markets sort of ensure that like these economies are functioning. And for me, that I actually have so much love to go back to Africa one day and make the continent bigger. That was very exciting for me as well. Then the second thing is the Afri Experience program, which is where we sort of showcase Africa to our classmates at SOM through food, music, culture, which is something I've been very excited about, and I'm even looking forward to next year as well. For one thing what was the last question on one thing I would...
What you wish you would have known when you were applying.
Yeah, I mean, after hearing Sanjana speak, I feel there are so many things happening at Yo that I don't even know at all. I feel like one of the things we should do, I would have done, was to probably lean into the community early and just maybe immerse myself a bit more in the community once we come to campus, because there's so many things happening, and the more you sort of involve yourself in these things, show up for events, the more your experiences becomes richer. So yeah, I think that's one thing I would have known.
Excellent. Thank you, Gerald.
About experience, I could share my international experience. I went to China. This is smiling because this is my highest point in my experience. Was 10 days, 10 intense days in China, visiting companies, visiting some touristic places. And when we visit those companies, we interact with senior leadership electric vehicles and social network services like RedNote, Trip.com. So we had the opportunity to talk with the people who leads the strategy on those companies. So for me, was the best experience so far. And one thing that I should have known before, as an international student, is how important is the coffee chats, the networking setting in the US. In Peru, it's not that common. So I should not know this before coming to the US and to Israel.
Excellent. Yeah. And I'll tell you what, we do a lot over the summer. So you might apply now. Maybe you've applied round one. Maybe you're thinking about applying in January, round two. There was a question about round three. I'll just mention quickly that, international students tend to apply more in the first two rounds because it gives them a better chance of planning and preparing to come to the US and to get their visa. It does not mean that we don't admit international students in the third round. It's part of our plan to be able to have some spots available to be able to do that. But if you're ready by January, and we are here in November, so perhaps there is a chance for you still to be able to prepare for January, I do encourage you to try to apply by January, all things being equal. But Gerald, you were talking about the level of kind of awareness and preparation. And our students will be working with the Career Development Office even before they set foot in New Haven, right? So over the summer, there are a lot of resources and support that happen. So it's not just once you come to school, but you should expect that over the summer, we'll be working very closely with you so that when you are at orientation or when you do begin classes, that some of those discussions have already begun for you over the summer. We are getting to your questions now, and I'm trying to find some of the themes here. I think one of the themes is around the visa processes. So there's the visa process that you went through, perhaps to get your visa to come to school. I think maybe more importantly, people are asking about the job market and your internship and your post-MBA plans. Does anybody want to talk about how that works in the US and what your plans are to stay? Candice, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about this because I have a little bit of experience working in the US before I started SOM, so I'm a bit more familiar with this. So typically when you start your academics here, like school here, right, to get a visa, typically we get F1 visa, but some people might get J1 visa as well. So basically SOM will provide all the paperwork and stuff like this with your own materials like passport and stuff like this to apply in the local consulate in your home country. It's a pretty seamless process. You just go to your appointment and get your visa, right? And then when it comes to the summer internship, typically most of the students use CPT for this, which is a type of work authorization that's pretty straightforward. You just get a new I-20, which is another visa material, and then you can start basically working for the company of choice. And then in the first year, typically you don't work in semester, but in the second year, international students have the opportunity to work off campus for employer as well on a part-time basis using either CPT or OPT, which is another work authorization. But throughout the 2 years, you always are able to work on campus for additional pay and salary. That's always allowed. And post your MBA, typically most students will leverage the OPT, post-completion OPT program, which allows you to work for 1 year. And then for SOM, we are eligible for the STEM OPT extension, which allow you to work for additional time period in the US. And then after you exhaust all your OPT options, there are different options you can use to stay in the US for longer, but most of the international students will leverage the H-1B program, which will qualify you for maximum 6 years of working in the US. And then post this, you might need to get a green card to work here in the long run. So in short, I know it's a lot of information going on, but I just want to say OIS's website has all the detailed description information for you to refer to. And then once you come on campus, there are also a lot of students who can tell you and walk you through the process. So it's very easy to follow, so no worries about that.
Thank you. Yeah, this is a question that we're getting obviously quite often right now as things fluctuate within the US, and what is the situation and how do we support international students? So just to expand a little bit on what Candice was talking about, yes, the Office of International Students and Scholars is basically our on-campus resource to be able to make sure that we have the latest as it relates to the visa process. They are the office that we work most closely with when we have admitted students, and they're the ones that are sharing the most up-to-date information, keeping in touch with all of the different countries and things that you're coming from, different considerations from around the world. As far as it relates to students being able to find internships and what that looks like and what their post-MBA plans are, I do encourage you to connect with our student ambassadors a little bit. I think having a few different conversations with international students about their experience, it might depend on the industry that they're looking at, where they're headed, but the summary so far is that our international students are doing quite well, and we aren't seeing, a lot of fluctuation with regard to people being able to identify opportunities to stay in the US. However, we are aware that things could change, and so we are mindful of needing to maintain and continue to build relationships in high value markets around the world, whether in the US or otherwise, to ensure that there are places for international students to go and be successful and meet the goals that they have for their MBA from a career perspective. Again, I do think talking to the current students on the ground is going to give you the best insights, but we'll continue to share resources. And I do think that the school is very, supportive and wants to make sure that everybody can be successful even as things adjust. There's another question too that I think can be a little bit nuanced for international students, and it has to do with funding your MBA and finding the resources. We'll put our Affording Your MBA link in the chat. But I would love to hear from any of you if you want to talk at all about how you thought about financing your MBA. And there's even a question about, funding your apartment, things like that. And any insights that you can share about how you've navigated your finances while in school.
I can go with that question. First of all, in my application journey, I was more worried about getting a spot in the SOM, because that was an advice I had received. Because once I get a spot at SOM, and there are multiple options to finance your degree. So in my case, I received also an advice to get a finance opportunity with a union credit that was pretty easy, because you only have to show the acceptance letter, and they process immediately your credit, whatever the amount you need, up to 90%. In my case, was the upper limit. So I think the finance option in that way, in my case, was pretty easy. Too easy that I made this paperwork from Peru. I was all everything virtual. So I think this is not a big deal if you are looking for a loan. No collateral, no sponsor, all these all the requirements. If you don't require, if you have, maybe there are some other benefits, but in my case, I didn't have, so it's okay to process with that way.
Anybody else want to share?
Yeah, and also just to add on a bit, I remember my time. I don't know if that's still the case, Dana, you could correct me, but so Quorum Credit Union, which is like a partnership with Yale, sort of disburses up to like 90% of the cost of attendance. And so as an international student, that was very helpful because the funding options are very limited, especially coming from Africa. If the scholarship is also not that high enough, if you are not able to get that much scholarship. And so Quorum was very helpful. Like Gerald said, you also don't need any collateral. All you need to be is to have a spot in the class, and then you just apply. Then you can have up to 90% of the cost of attendance, which means that it includes both tuition and also even rent expenses and all of that. So yeah, that's just what I wanted to share.
Thanks, Evan. And I think that brings to light the student ambassadors again, because there are going to be nuances by region. You just mentioned some specifics to Africa, in particular, where you're from in Africa. And I do think kind of talking, it's okay to ask student ambassadors, hey, do you have any thoughts on funding, right? Everybody's going to have a different situation. And I know, it sounds like, oh, maybe it's a personal question, but the ambassadors will share with you, what they feel comfortable sharing and what they know, right? They're not trying to kind of keep that information back. So we know that that's top of mind for you. The other thing I want to mention as it relates to our scholarships is that they are merit-based. So to be able to put together your best application is your chance of being best positioned to put, to earn a scholarship. I will tell you that we have a bit of a nuanced process from other schools, and that is if you apply, you interview, and you're ultimately admitted, rather than calling you and saying you've been admitted and here's your scholarship. We have a secondary process that happens just after you're admitted. It's very brief. We just ask a handful of questions, things like how do you plan to fund your MBA, or things that might be extenuating circumstances for you personally, that we might want to be mindful of as we're navigating that. That does not mean that the person with the greatest need that writes the story there gets the most scholarship. It just means we're trying to be need aware. So while most of the scholarship is predicated on merit, we ask these questions after because they're not meaningful to our admitting you or not. They're meaningful to our understanding of the funding situation after. So that is a little bit nuanced from a school perspective. We are going to take maybe about another 5 more minutes because our students need to get to class here in the next 10 or 15. But I want to ask a question that has to do with anything that you found to be surprising or unexpected while you're at SOM.
I can share what what was really surprising for me, which is there's two things. Maybe I can do positive and then maybe not so positive. So I think on the positive front, there is just so much to do at SOM that there can be a feeling of FOMO. I remember at one point of time, so you have classes, you're doing recruiting, and then you really want to do the fun stuff also. There's cocktail club where they teach you how to make cocktails. There's a wine class that happens every Monday where you actually have a sommelier coming in and teaching you about different wines from regions. Somebody started an oyster club this year where you learn how to shuck oysters. And so there's so many fun, cool things to do at SOM that, like Eben said, it's hard to explore even outside of SOM because there's so much going on. So I think one of the unexpected feelings I had was, how do I choose what to do and how do I spend my time on what would both bring me joy and also help me get to that place that I need to get in recruitment. And I think the second one, which is hand in hand, is that recruiting can feel really overwhelming. I think there's often a bubble of, you're recruiting with everybody else. And so you feel like, oh, Eben is doing so many coffee chats and I haven't done these many coffee chats yet. Or Candice has, already finished her application and I haven't started my application yet. Or Gerald's resume is ready and mine isn't yet. So you can always feel like you're running behind. But as a second year who's now gone through the process, who talks to first years all the time, I always say, all you need to do is make sure you know what your own personal timeline is. As long as you have your own personal timeline and you know your own personal goals, almost have tunnel vision and just do what you need to do to get there. Do not worry about what everybody else is doing because they're running their own race. And so I feel like those are kind of the big emotions I experienced when I first enrolled at SOM.
Great. Anything else that surprised, or actually we're at the end here too, to be able to share any kind of last minute thoughts, things that I know we've kind of shared a little bit about things you wish you would have known when you were in their shoes, but what do you like to talk about as it relates to SOM? What do you want people to know as they think about applying that I think, either makes SOM stand out from other programs to you as you were considering other programs, or just information that you think international students need to hear as they're contemplating their MBA?
Yeah, I think that looking back, one thing that I feel like most of us, especially internationals, fall to, or what is the fact that number one, we tend to spend a lot of time on trying to get like extremely great test scores, which I think is good, but the application process is very holistic. It's not just about getting like great test scores. You also need to have like great recommendations, like a good story. And so I'll say that spend a lot of time reflecting also on your reasons why you want to do the MBA, spend a lot of time on your essays, on getting strong recommendations as well. Because at the end of the day, it's not just about like a good test score, but every other thing in the application process also really matters. And also, New Haven is a beautiful place. It gets really cold sometimes, but I'm telling you, you would love it. It's very small. And so you're forced to become friends with your classmates, and that's incredibly helpful. Yeah.
Go ahead, Gerald.
Oh, yeah. Something else I can add is you need to do your research, talk with ambassadors. If you want, if you have the opportunity to visit us in person, it's a great opportunity to feel firsthand what's going on in this vibrant community. Also, when you do your research, try to make your connecting points to add to your application, and look for your application be a well-rounded package to align with the culture of SOM. So that's the latest point. It's important because, as Eben said, it's not only about your scores. It's a holistic, a whole package as you sell into in the application process to get into.
Thanks, Gerald. Yeah, one piece I want to mention is we would love to have everybody come to campus. However, we know that it could be cost prohibitive for some of you. So this is not, it does not give you a leg up in the admissions process for you to visit. So please don't come to think that you're getting kind of extra bonus points in the admissions process. To Gerald's point, though, it does help you understand the community, the school, the place. Eben also mentioned New Haven, so it will give you an opportunity to see those things. I encourage you to come maybe before you choose to accept, if that is an opportunity for you. And again, we have many who don't ever come to visit and still accept remotely. That's why we offer the remote opportunities that we do. But we do, if you have not applied yet and you're invited to interview, we do have in-person interview days. And then we have an in-person admitted student weekend. So those could be opportunities, either one of them, to come visit us if it aligns with your schedule and your finances. So I just want to encourage you to say, we recognize that many of you might need to engage with our school remotely, and we'll continue to offer those opportunities. But Gerald, I guess I totally agree that if they can come, that's always nice. Candice or Sanjana?
I'm going to next. I'll quickly answer some of the questions I saw in the chat. Like I saw someone's asking why everybody's student leader on this panel and how this help with the internship recruiting process. I just want to say being a student leader at SOM is actually a very unique experience because you got to practice leadership in SOM, being a student leader and hosting a lot of different events and the experience that benefits the student body. So I actually felt that helps me a lot and make me like some new stories I can talk about in my behavioral. So I definitely recommend this. And SOM does provide a lot of different opportunities, for international students here and the entire student body to be student leaders. So I think that's very unique. And the second thing is like when it comes to admissions, some people are asking like, what are some unique things international students bring to our student body? I think, like 40% of our student body almost is made of international students. So we do make, broad community here, and then everybody's so supportive. And then also there's a diversity within the international student body too. Like for example, the countries of origin, the career background, stuff like those. So definitely there are a lot of things we can provide in the classroom when it comes to our career experience and our unique life experience. So I think definitely highlight those in your application. And when it comes to more specific application wise, advice, like a lot of people will ask me when I'm like doing admissions ambassador chats, like, should I use someone as a consultant for the mission, stuff like those? That's definitely depending on your personal circumstance and choices. But I would say like rather than like a standard good application, I kind of mentioned this earlier too. Think about some ways you can talk in your essay that other people cannot talk about, rather than being the standard good student, type A student in the classroom. I think that might be something that you need to consider when you're applying for SOM, because I do feel like SOM looking for students from all walks of life and all background and things that make you shine. So that's my general admissions advice for you.
Excellent. Sanjana, take us home.
Honestly, this is going to be disappointing, but I think everybody's covered everything. So I don't think there's anything else to add, but I'm happy to chat with folks one-on-one. I'm a student ambassador, so please reach out.
Excellent. I think we've shared several different links here throughout the experience. And so with that, I want to take a moment to thank all of our students. We know how busy you are. And this was just really great to hear your stories, perspectives. We love, to be able to share the firsthand experience. And so do continue to stay connected to us and the resources here, whether the student ambassadors, whether upcoming events. Some of you had questions about Silver Scholars. So we have Silver Scholar specific events. Some of you had questions about asset management. We have asset management specific events. So those where we will spend a full hour, right, on some of those topics might be even more meaningful to you to try to get the nuanced questions that you're looking for. But with that, we're looking forward to reading your applications. We love getting to know students throughout this process. And I want to wish you well on your next steps, and don't hesitate to be in touch if you have any questions. Thanks again for joining today.
Thank you so much.
Bye. Thank you.